God, I look like such an academic grad student douchebag who's studying some really abstract kind of philosophy or something. But oh well, I don't know. You got to try things, right? So this video, oh, that's so influencer. Oh God, I don't know. I'm thinking about adulthood because I've basically reached it. I'm 21, and all throughout my childhood, I had this perception of adulthood as like the most end of times, boring, dystopian, horrible. Like once you're past 20, goddamn, life is over. Like shit's just grindstone, boring, corporate nothingness work for the rest of your life, unless you're like a billionaire, in which case your life is awesome. But that's not at all how life works. And what I've found, it's really difficult to articulate, and there's maybe some terminology or someone has described this feeling before, which would be great if someone could relate in the comments, is that reaching a certain age, I begin to have a different view of the world, where I can start to see kind of how complex everything actually is under the hood, all like the different fields of study there are and how complex they are and how complex we are in general and how complex society is. And especially, I think, if you go to college, it's more so like that, I would imagine. But I think in general, life is very complex and there's a lot to optimize and a lot of tiny little patterns to observe everywhere. And that doesn't stop. It actually kind of starts, in my experience. At least I'm starting to realize there's tons and tons of really intricate patterns everywhere in all these different fields. And it's basically like being a kid again, and you go from like kind of playing as a kid and like imagining things to in the last, I don't know, my teenage years, I felt like I wasn't, it was like a weird in between time where I wasn't a kid and I wasn't like having fun playing really, but I wasn't like seeing the world in the way I see it now, where everything is like complex, manipulatable structure that you can learn deeper and deeper and deeper. And so if you become like a software engineer, I was thinking about this. How does someone not like kill themselves in adulthood if the reality, like if what I was imagining, it being like a totally boring grind mill, like Mr. Incredible's, where he's working in an office job and he has all these superpowers and he's like depressed as fuck and it's all white collar and cubicles, and like that's what I was picturing. But even if you're at that kind of job, even if you're at that white cubicle job, like how do people not kill themselves in mass, And it's because the things that they're doing are actually incredibly fascinating to them, because there's kind of at least some of them, there's an almost infinite like kind of fractal nature to everything we do, especially the really complex things like programming, where you can just get better and better and better at it, and it's like a constant like it's like the world is just a big playground, honestly. And that's why like adults are so content being adults, is because like, yeah, you have to make certain trade-offs. Like you're now responsible for a bunch of really annoying chores. Your life gets really busy. Like you just pay all these utilities and you have all these responsibilities. And I'm like a bachelor and I'm 21, so I have almost no responsibilities. I can only imagine like down the line. But it's not like that's just one bad kind of thing on the outside of it. But on the inside of it, like there's just such an incredibly complex and interesting world of how everything works under the hood, and like you can understand that forever. And I think in general white collar work is better for this. Like there's more depth to programming than there is to yard work. But honestly, I don't fully think that it's like white collar work is totally deeper and that's the end of the story, because I've worked a couple of jobs, and I've talked to friends who have similar experiences, where you work a minimum wage job or kind of like a first, I don't know, service job. And it's for me, I was like a baker. I worked in a grocery store. I did some lawn care and stuff early on. And you meet people in those professions, and some of them kind of have big egos, and they're like, this work is kind of beneath me. I have more skill than this. This is not who I am. And then some of them are like crazy stoners and just have other traits that kind of led them to get to doing a job that doesn't pay a lot, that isn't very consequential, or doesn't, it's consequential, it just doesn't require like tons of layers of knowledge. But you'll meet also some people, they're slightly rarer in blue collar environments in my opinion, but I haven't worked a ton of blue collar jobs, so I don't know, who have killed their egos and are just like unfathomably good at the like mechanical day-to-day job they do. Like, I remember working in this bakery, and there's this one guy, Mark, who just like he had worked in bakeries just like for insanely long time. Doesn't pay amazingly, especially this small local bakery, but he just like, it was his thing, and he like kind of killed his ego where he was like, I don't need to be more than a baker, I just love baking. And when you find someone like that, it's like the reason they continue to keep going in what seems like such a monotonous grind is it's like Vim for them. Like, they can just keep optimizing and like, maybe they're not looking at it as optimizing like I do. I have some weird complex with the word optimizing for some reason, but it's like just getting deeper absorbed into your craft, you know, and understanding it more and more, and the nuances of it, and why certain things are certain ways. And oh my god, this guy could like shape loaves of bread like he'd use two hands. He'd be like doing straight up like 4 times as fast as anyone else. And he was like, not just that, like he ran the bakery like absolute clockwork. Like I was kind of, at the time I was annoyed, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Why does he think he can, like, he's so smart that he can run this bakery so efficiently? And I had like the chip on my shoulder. I was like, I'm doing AI research. I know better than these people. And there are some people there, yes, maybe, because they weren't invested. But this guy, absolutely, I should have just listened to everything he said about how the bakery should be run, because this guy just knew, he, like, doing it day in and day out, it just, like, he got to, like, a godlike state of it. And there's so many people, I think, around us in everyday life that are kind of unsung heroes, because what they are really excellent at is kind of just being a cog in the machine. But that sounds like worse than it is. Everyone's kind of a cog in the machine, but like people that get famous because of luck usually, and I don't know, a bunch of other circumstances, I guess, but like famous musicians and stuff, they have some skill that's appealing to a mass amount of people. Seeing a guy who's like not a world-renowned baker by any means, he's not the best baker in the world, he's just really, really fucking efficient at this one job that he's just like done over and over again. Or some guy who does Microsoft Excel, and he's like, hey kid, I know all the tricks, I've been here for 20 years, I've really dug deep into Microsoft Excel. Those people are like, just as, there's tons of them that are probably like prodigy caliber good at different things. And I never considered that that's what adulthood could be, is like, it's just an endless chance to kind of practice and optimize everything around you. And it's awesome, because I was just talking in a work context, but there are so many fields that I previously was like, fake field, pseudoscience, not a real thing, like psychology and communication theory, and a kind of philosophy. I don't know. I was just like a huge D1 dismisser of ideas that weren't mine. And I still am for complex ideas, but I know like those ideas are way smarter than what I currently think. It's just I don't understand them yet. And that's also like, the world is just a playground, because there's so many things you can just learn and like optimize this shit out of, and like, not optimize, just understand deeper. And like, you could pick anything. You could pick cooking, you could pick I think a very important one to pick, that a lot of the smartest people and most enjoyable people to hang out with, I know, is understanding your psychology and like how you might have been affected by certain things as a child. Going to therapy is really nice for this, but you can also totally just read about it yourself and talk about it with your friends. That's a very important skill, and I find it like, it's really inspiring when there's someone who has like somewhat of an annoying personality trait, but they're like fully aware of it, and they're like, oh yeah, this blah 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 happened to me as a kid, and it happened repeatedly, and I know that I act in this certain way because of it, and they just acknowledge it to you, and it's like, it's it's really crazy. Yeah. And I think, honestly, also, returning to college, you can succeed kind of anywhere. I think it's kind of procrastination to move around to like Silicon Valley or something else, or to try to make my startup. It's like I'm trying to just change the circumstances so that something will click and I'll start really doing the hard work. But there's no reason to leave the stable path. I can just do the hard work of understanding the things I want to understand anywhere. That's my thought process right now, at least. And college, to me, at first, I think wasn't fully open because I wasn't like capable yet of connecting really deeply with people in the way that I'm starting to be now. And like I kind of dismissed everyone around me for the most part, even like the technically smart people I knew, as like flawed in some way. Like, oh, these people are normies, these people don't actually know what's up, these people are TikTok heads. That's a big thing I firmly believe. But I found out recently that that's not a good idea to think of people like as all. Like, there are people that use TikTok that I know that are like smarter than I am, and it's just, I feel like every new generation has its own kind of vices. Well, actually, I'm going to get into that in another video I have an idea for on parenting. I'm just like mega yap sessioning today. But yeah, I think there are tons of incredibly smart people at my school. And I kept getting these weird, like, I kept making these weird arguments like, oh, if I had gone to XYZ school instead that was more prestigious, things would be different for me right now. If I had just like, if such and such circumstance were slightly different, everything would be perfect. And that's really not a good way to think, because there are people around you who are brilliant, like everywhere. You just haven't taken the time to like kill your ego enough to talk to them. That was my experience. Like, I have friends that I thought, oh my god, this person is like so dumb, they have nothing they can teach me. And then I really try to get interested in them, and it's kind of tough. It's still a skill I'm developing, to like genuinely have complete empathy, to be like really interested in someone. Once you get that though, and you can start talking at a very deep level, then you start to meet. I guess this is just what meeting people in college is. I don't know, it seems like a revelation to me, but this is a pattern many people have discovered in the past before. And like, I think it's weird because I have a lot of friends, but I just feel like a lot of them are surface level friends, and it's a certain point, and I think my parents both experienced this too, my mom did at least, in like maybe halfway through your college career, where you start to realize, wait a minute, all these things I took for granted, that like this is a scam and XYZ is just not worth it and these people are dumb, are like not entirely true. And there are tons of other people around you that are going through mostly the same struggles and are just as ambitious and have just as complex plans as you do, which is maybe kind of obvious, but I don't know. I think it's normal to not realize that for the first chunk of your life. But yeah, that's why I feel like school is what you make of it, for sure. And definitely there are some really smart and capable people anywhere. I think some of them are concentrated in more prestigious schools, more maybe, but that's massive cope from just doing the actual work. And there's actually a lot of like excuses I make that are just cope for not doing the work. Like, oh, if this circumstance was different, then the work would all fall into place. It would be easy. But that's not how the world works at all. And another thing is, another reflection on growing up, I know I was talking about all the like complexity of the world that actually exists. I think one big benefit of college is going to school to meet people that also see and acknowledge that complexity, versus people that just like kind of take the world for what it is and like leave everything around them as a black box that they just kind of bump into. There's definitely people like that in college, increasingly more so. But in my opinion, college is worth it. I think, yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. there are a lot of like kind of realizations, and maybe not realizations. Well, yeah, I guess realizations is better than pieces of information, but like a lot of things you get from going to college that like aren't in classes, that are mostly just experiential and like talking to people. And I'm not talking about just like going to parties and whatnot. Like not surface level stuff so much as like when you have a bunch of conversations with a bunch of people in college, like your worldview just really changes in a lot of ways. And I mean, it's also one thing I feel weird about giving like my side of the story and my advice is that increasingly like I don't represent a normal college kid because of my YouTube channel. I suspect that I'm maturing faster than I otherwise would have because of my YouTube channel. Because I like will put out kind of takes every day or relatively every day, and then like get brutally like corrected by people constantly. I feel like I'm maturing on certain things much faster than I otherwise would have, just kind of like sitting in my room and programming all day. And you can get that same kind of maturity by talking to people, but I do feel like YouTube is unironically an accelerator for it. And I don't know, there are other things that happened in my life that were accelerators for it, like talking to like senior software engineers who have a lot about the world figured out and who are very wise, and just like asking them tons and tons of questions. It just it changes your brainscape a little bit. Also, another reflection on growing up is mania, and like that episode that happened to me. I know a few other people that happened to, and my personal take, I mean, I know people with bipolar. I think like it's just part of your 20s to kind of like be really excited about the complex structure and nature of the world. Like once you see like kind of what adulthood has in store, it's like you're just like running around the playground for the first time, you know, just like checking everything out metaphorically. And yeah, that's something that weighs on my mind often, like because I feel sometimes like another kind of rush of like exciting ideas and this feeling of like openness about the world, and I can kind of see the complexity around me and like see how everything is meaningful and relevant. And then I wonder, like, am I just like in a manic state where I'm like having a lot of thoughts that are just like kind of not actually real, like I'm just like meta thinking about thinking, and it's like just not productive at all, and I'm living in my thoughts again. But which is like an annoying thing, but I'm really glad that I got sent to a psych ward, because like now I look out for it, and I know it's like you're not supposed to be able to spot mania if you're bipolar. Like you become blind to it, and like that's like a freaky thing. That's like, what if I'm currently manic and I don't know? I have a medication that ceilings it, but like I honestly, like, you can crash through that if you get manic enough. But anyway, the point is, like, I really have this conviction that learning some Zen Buddhism practice and just mindfulness, I'm not that good at Zen, just like being aware of how much time I spend in my thoughts versus how much time I spend doing things. I think personally that my manic episode was just like, it happened because I didn't know to do that, and now that I know to watch out for patterns like that, like becoming too excited about the world, I think it's something I can just not fall into. But I don't know. That might be completely hubristic thinking. That's not fully legit. I don't know. This one's getting long though.